From dark and dense woodlands whose bounds are plagued by ghosts and ancient curses, to archaeological dig sites boasting otherworldly energies and mysterious cryptids after nightfall. Are you ready for our second list of picks for some of the most haunted state parks in the US? Number 5. Aztalan State Park. Aztalan State Park, located off County Road Q along Crawfish River in Jefferson County, Wisconsin, is a 172-acre expanse recognized for its holding of one of the state's most significant archaeological sites. Historically, the earliest settlement of Aztalan was formed around 900 CE by a Native American culture known as the Middle Mississippian tradition, which thrived until sometime between 12,000 and 13,000 CE when it was ultimately abandoned, and it's now theorized the settlement either ran its natural resources dry or encountered resistance from another tribe. In 1919, initial archaeological inspections of the site were launched. In 1928, the property was given to the Wisconsin Archaeological Society and was formally dedicated. In 1952, it was open to the public. In 1964, it was designated a National Historic Landmark. And just 2 years later, in 1966, Aztalan was added to the National Register of Historic Places. Aztalan State Park remains open to this day, preserving the remains of the old Mississippian community, a line of ceremonial mounds extending north of ancient farming fields, and, according to legend, a range of paranormal activity, with those frequenting it reporting the constant feeling of being watched, stalked, or even hunted, extreme cold spots in the heat of summer, and the unnerving sensation of breath on the back of one's neck. Some of the most popular tales tell the site's extreme and often chilling activity may be a result of what some dub the spirit mounds, and near them many have detailed encounters with shadowy figures and full-bodied apparitions in traditional Mississippian clothing. Lastly, several informal investigations of the area have yielded high EMF levels despite an utter lack of electronics, EVPs in recordings and videos, and orbs and strange fog patches in the backgrounds of photography, findings which really are lucky scores considering investigators on site usually suffer near constant and inexplicable equipment failures. Number 4. Patapsco Valley State Park. Patapsco Valley State Park, located along the Baltimore National Pike in Ellicott City, Maryland, is a 16,043-acre expanse extending 32 miles along the Patapsco River that's recognized as Maryland's first state park, and that's nationally acclaimed for its breathtaking scenery and miles of trails. Historically, a 43-acre Patapsco State Forest Reserve was first established in 1907 in an effort to protect the valley's natural growth and water resources. In 1919, it was heavily expanded upon to reach 1,000 acres, while welcoming in 200 campsites and a number of trailheads. And through the 1930s, it would be officiated as Patapsco Valley State Park. Around this time, the Civilian Conservation Corps would establish a number of cabins, pavilions, campgrounds, restrooms, and access roads. In 1972, Tropical Storm Agnes would sweep the park, resulting in loss of life, destroyed businesses, and the washing away of a number of historic structures and rail lines. And more recently, in 2016 and 2018, the valley endured several major floods, concluding in further destruction. Patapsco Valley State Park remains open into the present, offering abundant options for angling, camping, canoeing, and picnicking, alongside over 200 miles of trails for hiking, horseback riding, or mountain biking. The park's bounds also claim a number of Maryland's earliest mills and factories, as well as remains of old settlements long since abandoned. And over its lengthy existence, an assortment of stories of associated supernatural activity have formed, with those exploring about reporting disembodied footsteps, unnatural cold spots, and encounters with the apparition of a young girl, usually spied within ruins, that's eyes have been known to glow an ominous red right before she charges at nearby living. The community of Daniels, also located within Patapsco Valley, was abandoned through the 1960s, and near it, many have recounted hearing conversations, music, car engines, and the disembodied noises of a crowd, suggesting some version of this reality long since extinguished still exists just beyond our mortal realm. Lastly, along Buzzard Trail lies a set of old ruins dubbed Hell House that are rumored to have once belonged to the old St. Mary's College, and that supposedly at one point hosted satanic rituals, and those passing through the area have reported hearing inhuman noises emanating from within, as well as encounters with demonic creatures. Number 3. Farragut State Park. Farragut State Park, located off State Route 54 at the southern end of Lake Pend Oreille in the Coeur d'Alene Mountains, about 5 miles east of Athol, is a 4,000-acre expanse recognized as one of the best and most diverse recreation and vacation zones in the whole of Idaho. Historically, ground on site was first broken for the purpose of a 4,160-acre naval reserve in 1942, with a base formally activated in mid-September of the same year. At this time, it would accommodate a population of 55,000, making it the largest city in the state and the second largest training center in the world. In 1945, the base would serve as a POW camp and would hold around 900 German prisoners, most of which were captured shortly after D-Day, and whom would be put to work as gardeners and maintenance personnel. Over its course of operation, more than 293,000 sailors received basic training at Farragut, with its last recruit graduating in March of 1945. In 1946, the facility was decommissioned, and from then until 1949, the site would host Farragut College and Technical Institute. In 1950, the property was transferred to the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, who would utilize it to establish Farragut Wildlife Management Area. Later, this land would be deeded to the state, and in 1966, it would be transformed into Farragut State Park. Farragut remains open to this day, offering its popular Museum at the Brig, located within the confinement facility of the old Naval Training Station. While no one is sure exactly who or what is haunting the park, a number of campfire tales over its many years have entailed downright terrifying phenomena, with officials and visitors reporting otherworldly sounds from the forests, objects that move on their own, shadowy figures that stalk the living, demonic silhouettes sighted sneaking about after dark, run-ins with the manifestation of a man in uniform on the lake's shores, and encounters with a range of additional full-bodied apparitions in old-fashioned clothing. A number of legends surround the museum at the Brig, one of the most famous claiming the bust of a soldier, purposed to honor the memory of former recruits, moves and turns to watch those who pass, and another that tells of a German prisoner who was captured and killed on the building's lower level, his body left to decompose. Those who've braved the property after dark have reported the clinking of cell doors, disembodied moaning and yelling, orbs visible to the naked eye, and the apparition of a man, possibly the German prisoner in prison attire, spied sneaking about. Number 2. Beaver Creek State Park. Beaver Creek State Park, located off Echo Dell Road on the banks of Little Beaver Creek in Columbiana County, Ohio, is a 2,722-acre public recreation expanse containing the remnants of the Sandy and Beaver Canal that's open year-round for recreation. Historically, human habitation of this area dates back to the Clovis culture of around 10,000 years ago, and more recently to the Mingo and Wyandot, and in 1970 the valley would gain its first permanent European settler in the form of trapper John Quinn. Quinn was followed swiftly by waves of pioneers who cleared the forest and established some of the first frontier farmlands. In 1828, the Sandy and Beaver Canal was chartered, and in 1848 the waterway was officially completed. From the start, the middle section of this canal was plagued with issues, and in 1852 utilization of it would cease entirely. Through the American Civil War in July of 1863, and as part of the Morgan's Raid campaign, Confederate General and Cavalry Officer John Hunt Morgan would lead troops past Union lines to the furthest north point reached by any uniformed Confederate party, until their forced surrender right near what is now our state park. In 1949, Beaver Creek State Park was officially established by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. It remains open to this day, offering trails, a wildlife education center, a historic mill, a full recreation of a pioneer village, and, if claims hold true, an assortment of hauntings. Jake's Lock takes its name after a canal worker who, long ago, was struck by lightning while walking atop it. His apparition has been sighted, namely at night, carrying a ghostly lantern, seemingly continuing about his work from the other side. And many have noted that when he is present, cameras and phones have a habit of spontaneously failing. Gretchen's Lock is said to be haunted by the ghost of a canal worker's daughter, whose father, as legend has it, laid her coffin inside the lock until he could ship it back to their homeland, following which the ship transporting her remains became lost at sea and was never heard from again. Gretchen's ghost has been rumored to appear most often around the anniversary of her death, near August 12th. The area surrounding the ghost town of Spruceville is purported to harbor the ghost of one Esther Hale, also referred to as the Bride at the Bridge. As history and lore have it, on August 12th of 1837, and in no relation to the date of Gretchen's passing, Esther was stood up by her groom-to-be on their wedding day and later died of a broken heart. Her silhouette has been sighted walking the area in an ethereal, flowing wedding gown, and most every year on August 12th has been sighted standing on the bridge eerily, awaiting her true love's return. Alternately, another variant to this tale tells that if Esther's spirit touches the living, that she will become young and beautiful again, but that the person she touched will die shortly after. One final story tells of the Mushroom Lady, the spirit of a woman who murdered her cheating husband with poison fungus, and who manifests as a disturbing and grotesque figure in black that's been known to stalk and even chase the living. Number 1. McConnells Mill State Park. McConnells Mill State Park, located along Slippery Rock Creek off McConnells Mill Road in Perry and Slippery Rock Townships in Pennsylvania, is a 2,546-acre state park recognized by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources as one of the 25 must-see Pennsylvania state parks around. Historically, through the early 1800s, a series of oil wells were established through the region until most became contaminated with groundwater and were abandoned. And in 1852, when Daniel Kennedy would open a grist mill off Slippery Rock Creek. Sadly, this early mill was destroyed in a fire in 1868, though following the blaze, a new grist mill was constructed in its stead. In 1875, when Thomas McConnell, after whom the park takes its name, would gain ownership of the mill, and would replace the water wheel with turbines and the grindstones with rolling mills, making McConnell's one of the first rolling mills in the whole of the U.S. While in operation, McConnell's mill would process oats, corn, buckwheat, and plain wheat until its closure in 1928. Eventually, it would be sold off to one Thomas H. Hartman, who, in 1942, would gift ownership to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy under the condition it be preserved indefinitely, and after which, in 1957, the Conservancy would transfer ownership of the land to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, when McConnell's Mill State Park was formally dedicated. The park remains open to this day, offering miles of trails, countless climbing routes, and options for angling, boating, and more. Chillingly, local legends pin this park expanse as one of the more haunted areas in the state, and both officials and visitors have reported a slew of inexplicable activity, including disembodied voices, screams, and footsteps, orbs, mists, and ghostly forms in photography, the constant feeling of being watched, and encounters with full-bodied apparitions in clothing spanning the ages, some bloody and broken, and assumed to be the restless ghosts of countless hikers, climbers, and explorers who have lost their lives on the landscape's many dangerous cliffs and swift currents. One popular story surrounding McConnell's Mill tells of a former employee who, it's rumored, was killed during a mishap with some of the grist mill's machinery. His spectral form has been known to photobomb the living, and has even been cited by witnesses who usually tell strikingly similar stories. That he walks up to the mill with a lunch pail in hand, goes inside, that the lights turn on, and then that a blood-curdling scream emanates from within moments, before everything goes quiet. Another popular fable tells of a young woman who died in an accident on the McConnell's Mill covered bridge, which was constructed in 1874, and legend furthers that if you park your car on said bridge after dark, turn your lights off, and honk your horn 3 times, that she'll manifest in the rearview mirror, but will disappear when stared at directly. A final bit of lore surrounds a former caretaker, Moses Wharton, who died at the turn of the century, and whose spirit is rumored to remain on park grounds, protecting them from those with less than honorable intentions. Moses is a peaceful and friendly spirit, and several have even spoken of times in which they were in peril or terrified by other presences, and called out to him or honked a car horn, resulting in his manifestation and the ceasing of all additional malevolent activity. Taking into account its ridiculously fascinating and influential history, and coupling it with an impressive collection of ghost stories, local legends, and purported paranormal happenings, we felt McConnells Mill was the perfect choice as the most haunted state park in the US. Thanks for tuning in for our second list of picks for some of the most haunted state parks in the US. If you enjoyed hearing our histories and ghost stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on. Throw us a like, and most importantly, share us with anyone you feel could use a good scare. We'll catch you all next time.